Wow, I really didn't expect to like this as much as I did. I guess you could say I didn't see it coming. Get it? Because it's the Invisible Man? Okay. Hey everyone, it's Nathan Orenstein with The No Show, here to talk about Leigh Whannell's The Invisible Man. The Invisible Man stars Elizabeth Moss, Aldous Hodge, Storm Reed, Michael Dorman, and Oliver Jackson Cohen, and is written by Leigh Whannell. It's based on the 1897 novel of the same name by H.G. Wells. The Invisible Man starts with Cecilia, played by Elizabeth Moss, escaping her abusive boyfriend Adrian, played by Oliver Jackson Cohen. A couple weeks later, she hears that he's actually died, but things start happening that lead her to believe otherwise. She suspects Adrian somehow managed to turn himself invisible, and she tries to prove that this is the case. Right off the bat, I need to acknowledge how great Elizabeth Moss is in this role. Her ability to capture the PTSD and paranoia that Cecilia experiences as a victim of domestic abuse is incredible, and Elizabeth Moss continues to prove that she really is one of the best actresses working in the sci-fi horror sphere today. She's really the only lead actor here, but the rest of the cast does a really great job of supporting her performance with solid performances of their own. But in my opinion, the real star of the show here is some absolutely masterful direction from Leigh Whannell. Leigh Whannell has been a prominent writer in the horror genre for about 2 decades or so now, but it wasn't until recently that I started getting behind the camera too. I have to admit I was pretty skeptical of this movie because his last film, a futuristic sci-fi movie titled Upgrade, was horrendously directed and relied way too much on its cool futuristic setting. But with The Invisible Man, Leigh Whannell has managed to build tension in a way that is rarely seen in modern horror anymore. The Invisible Man was made on a pretty small budget, so Whannell mostly uses camera tricks to instill fear in the audience. They aren't really even tricks though, mostly just a combination of great shot composition, timing, and slow camera movements combined with great lighting and sound effects to practically build fear out of nothing. He uses Elizabeth Moss as a conduit for the audience member, relying on close-ups and human-like camera movements to create this first-person perspective without actually using the first-person's perspective, which is a horrible gimmick that's been popping up more and more nowadays. I think Whannell might fall back on these same methods one too many times throughout the film, but they work well, and they've certainly convinced me that he knows what he's doing behind the camera. I think this is also arguably Leigh Whannell's best written film to date too. It's a frightening and powerful look at domestic abuse, manipulation, PTSD, and paranoia, all told through the lens of a sci-fi horror movie. It's certainly science fiction, but it falls within the realm of reality and is definitely more realistic than you might initially expect. Through this framework of barely out-of-reach sci-fi, told with a horror spin, Whannell's story is surprisingly human and all the more scary for that reason. In terms of structure, there are 3 pretty distinct acts here, but they all feel great, and these differences allow for some very smart expectation subversions. The story is also satisfying throughout, even through its unexpected turns, which all feel natural and unforced. I think it does take a little while for things to pick up, and Leigh Whannell's style of directing does lend itself to some scenes that might stretch on a little too long, but otherwise the pacing is great, which is very important for a horror film that goes anywhere past 2 hours. The writing is consistent throughout too, but it relies more on the actors' performances than anything to drive the story, which is a decision that I think works well in the end. The Invisible Man definitely has its fair share of plot holes, so don't go in expecting an airtight screenplay or anything. But these issues aren't huge, and at the end of the day, they don't affect the overall story too much. The Invisible Man is a triumph of a horror film, and I think it has massive appeal for mainstream and art-leaning horror fans alike. Elizabeth Moss and the rest of the cast have done a great job of performing the story, but ultimately they're pawns in Leigh Whannell's grand vision for this film. He's created a masterclass in tension building that's all too realistic, making it all the more scary. The Invisible Man is not perfect by any means, but this is definitely a great horror film, and I'm going to be giving it an 8 out of 10. As always, thanks for watching, and feel free to like and subscribe if you liked the video. And if you've seen The Invisible Man already, I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. I'll be reviewing Impractical Jokers the movie within the next few days, so click that bell to get notifications for whenever I post. I've been Nathan Orenstein with The No Show. See you next time.